wear while we're sailing narwhal in cold waters. These are just my personal choices, and I'm sure you've all got your own favourites. But whether you're joining us on one of our expeditions, you're just interested about high latitude sailing, or you're planning some cold water adventures of your own, hopefully you'll find this helpful. I'll start by showing you what I wear for what I consider the warmer kind of conditions, and then I'll show you the layers that I build up as the conditions get colder. Let's get started. So this is what I would consider to be my warm weather sailing outfit. So I'm just wearing a t-shirt and then a kind of warm fleece or a jumper over the top of that. And then I've got these trousers that I particularly like. They've got a sort of lightly windproof, waterproof outer layer, and they're a little bit fleecy on the inside. So they give a little bit of coziness without being too big. Alternative trouser wise might be these sort of like lighter weight kind of walking trousers that have got a bit of windproof and waterproofing to them. Then on top of that, I'd probably choose to wear like a soft shell jacket. And then finally I'd probably just top that off with a sort of lightweight kind of beanie. And there I am, that's me ready for a normal not too cold day sailing on Narwhal. Okay, as soon as it gets a bit too chilly just to wear a light trousers and a soft shell jacket, then I usually start thinking about layering, and that's I'm going to be wearing like a base layer that's my sort of keeping dry kind of clothes, and then I'm going to wear a full waterproof suit over the top of that. So my first base layer that I might start off with, probably just like a pair of tights, like running trousers, yoga trousers, like some sports trousers or walking trousers, something like that that's just nice and comfortable to wear. And then on my top I've got like a merino base layer, which I really like. Then over the top of my base layer I'd probably put on like a jumper or a fleece or something a little bit warmer as a mid layer. So that's my base layer sorted. Now I'm going to put on my waterproof suit. These suits are brilliant. They're waterproof, they're windproof, and they've got a layer of neoprene in them, so they're really warm as well. So basically this is my go-to item of clothing when I'm on deck and we're in action sailing Narwhal. If you're joining us on one of our expeditions, then we'll provide these suits for everybody on board, so it means you don't need to worry about this layer at all. You can just think about bringing the nice warm base layers. So I've got my waterproof suit, now I'm going to need something on my feet, and I'd recommend what we're going to need is a pair of wellies. It doesn't really matter too much what type of wellies. These are the ones that I like to wear the best, so they're pink, and also because they are neoprene there's a bit of warmth to them and also a bit of comfort and cushioning when you're wearing them outside on the cold deck for an extended period of time. So these are my favourites. But you don't need anything expensive, just a pair of boots that's going to be waterproof, so just sort of an ordinary pair of wellies is going to be fine. If you've got the type like this, just the rubber type that haven't got so much insulation, then you're going to want more in the way of thick socks underneath. Then I'm going to want something on my head. So if it's dry, then probably just a slightly thicker sort of beanie hat like this is great. If it's wet out, then I like to wear a waterproof hat, which means I don't have to wear my hood necessarily all the time. There's lots of options for waterproof hats. These are some of my favourites. This one's just like looks like a normal cap, but is made of waterproof material. So this one's a good sort of first stop if it's not too cold, but it's wet. Next up, this one is a sealskins brand, but there are other manufacturers that make hats like this. So you can see it's got the peak, which is great for keeping the rain off your face. It's got the ear flaps, which is really good for a bit of additional warmth. It's got a bit of fleeciness inside to keep you warm, and again the whole thing is completely waterproof. Another option is a good old tea hat. This one's great. Again, the peak and the brim all the way around, stop the rain running off and wetting your hair or getting down the back of your neck. So I love this. I wear this one quite a lot on board. And last but not least, might as well look the part. We are going sailing after all, and again really practical, keeps the rain off your shoulders, stops the rain going down your neck. stops the rain going in your face. So I love this one, and I wear this quite a lot while I'm sailing too. And then the final thing we're going to need before we go on deck and we're ready for action, if it's starting to get a little bit colder, is we might want a pair of gloves. These are probably my favourite go-to gloves, so just a pair of mittens. They're lightly waterproof, so if there's a bit of rain and I'm helming them, my hands aren't going to get wet, but they're nice and cosy. Mittens always feel like they keep your hands quite a bit warmer because your fingers are all together in one area rather than being separated, so I like mittens, and they're really easy to take on and off if I need to take them off, do a job where I need the dexterity, and then just pop them back on again. Another pair of gloves that I really like are these. So these are made by Helly Hansen, but they're more from their work glove range than from their sailing range. So they're neoprene, so they've got a bit of warmth to them. They've got a bit of grip and sort of resilience on the palms when you're doing things on the boat. They won't keep you completely dry, but they are nice and warm. So those two options are my sort of go-tos for gloves when the weather's cold enough to need gloves, but not really, really cold. So I'm back in my base layer, and I'm going to show you the extra layers that I would put on underneath my trusty sailing suit as the weather starts getting a bit colder. So the first thing I'd probably put on is an extra thick pair of woolly socks. So there we go, I've got my warm woolly socks on and I'm ready to pop those underneath my wellies. The next thing I'd probably add is like a buff or a neck gaiter. These are really great for keeping the drafts out, and particularly with the sailing suits there is a bit of a gap around the neck, so these really keep you quite a lot warmer for not much else extra that you need to pack. After that I'm going to start adding some more layers to my upper body. So the first thing I'd add is either a down or synthetic gilet. And then depending on how cold it is, I might just stay with the gilet, or I might put a lightweight down or synthetic down jacket on underneath. Or if it's even colder, I might consider wearing a heavier weight down jacket underneath my sailing suit. So that's my base layers sorted out for some pretty cold weather. If it gets even colder, I might add a second layer of trousers, and then I want to start thinking about my head and my gloves. So in colder weather, again, there's quite a lot of choices for gloves. These are some of my favourites. So back to the trusty pairs of mittens. So mittens, again, keep your hands a bit warmer than the gloves. These are the sort of mittens that you'd buy for like skiing or snowboarding. So they've got a bit of waterproofing to them. If we're going to have a very wet day out on the boat, then they probably wouldn't be quite waterproof enough for that. But again, they're really easy to get on and off and nice and cosy. Some of the alternatives: if it's wet on deck, if it's raining and I'm going to be doing a lot of helming, then these are definitely my go-to waterproof gloves. So they're usually sold in the shops that sell like gear for fishing, and they come in different types. These ones are like obviously the heavy duty and they're waterproof, and they've actually got a nice fleece lining, so they're quite cosy as well. Another option is just to get the waterproof outer shell gloves and then just wear a pair of fleece liner gloves inside, which is actually really good because then you can bring a couple of pairs of the fleece liners and you can dry those out and switch them out if they get wet underneath. So these are another pair of my sort of favourite go-to gloves. And the final sort of glove option if it's really cold. These ones work best obviously if it's dry out on deck, but just a really good pair of heavyweight, super warm, just nice warm either mittens or gloves are brilliant. At this stage I might also think about maybe moving on to some slightly warmer wellies. Now obviously you don't have to necessarily buy warmer wellies. If you've got the similar sort of type like this that have already got some insulation in them, that's great, and maybe you just want to put the extra socks underneath. If you're going to be doing a lot of sailing in colder weather, then I would definitely suggest a really good pair of insulated wellies. These are the ones that I have. They're made by Ski Tech, and obviously they're waterproof. They've got a fleecy, really cosy fleecy lining that comes out of the boot. So you can either replace it if you need to, or you can have a couple of linings if one gets wet, or it's just much easier to dry it if one gets wet. And then also they have really thick soles, so they're really good insulation either from like a cold ground or the cold deck on the boat. So as the weather gets colder, I would recommend these. Then obviously on top of all of that, I would be wearing my trusty sailing suit. And the final thing that we're going to need is something on our heads. So obviously we've got all of those hat options that we had before, or we might want to start thinking about something a little bit warmer, so maybe something like this. And there we go. So hopefully that's shown you the sort of things that I wear when I'm sailing on Narwhal, and hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea as to what sort of things you might want to wear if you're joining us on an expedition or if you're going on a sailing adventure of your own. Obviously all of these are my personal choices, and you'll have your own favourites and your own best tips, and please feel free to leave those in the comments below. If you're thinking about what to pack to come on an expedition, what I tend to think of is having a good reliable base layer that I really like, and then bringing lots of extras of hats and gloves. You can see that I've got loads of different types of hats and gloves, and they all have different conditions where they work really well, and also there's a really good chance that you're going to get them wet. And if you have more than one or a few pairs of hats and gloves, then you've got the chance to get one set dry while you're wearing another dry set. So I hope you found that helpful, and we look forward to welcoming you on board Narwhal.